Hey everyone, this is Daniel Fosco, Senior Product Designer on the Release Group, and I'm here with Chris Balane, who's our Senior Product Manager on the Release Group as well. And this is the Release Product and UX Weekly. I'll start sharing my screen so we can go over our agenda. This is a little bit out of order because today we had the first Release Group brainstorm, which might sound a little bit odd in terms of GitLab since we work async so much. But Chris and I were feeling like we wanted to have a little bit more sync feedback from our developers and from the team as a whole. So we created this optional meeting for anyone to attend, and we had great attendance. A few of our developers came, and it was great. Like we did a UX review of our deployment approval feature. That it is a tricky feature because it spans multiple points of touch across GitLab, multiple UIs. So for me as a designer, it's taking a lot of work to make sure nothing slips, and it is a very broken workflow that we're bringing together into one. So we went over all of the steps. You can see the video as well, will be posted soon, but we got really good feedback on what's already happening. Some in-depth feedback on an issue that is ongoing, and then brainstorm future ideas as Chris is adding here. And it was fantastic. So I'm excited for the next ones. What did you think, Chris? I think it was good.
Yeah, thanks, Daniel. Yeah, great. And you did a great job facilitating. So thank you for being the first one to do that for these sessions. Yeah, totally agree. Great discussion. We ran out of time, which is always a good sign in terms of for brainstorming. And so, and as Daniel was saying, definitely not meant to replace the async work that we do as a team and collaborate on our issues. Our team is already really good at that. But meant to supplement and also just have another opportunity for the team to get together, because right now we only have sort of once a week meetings. And so, yeah, it went really well. I think we got some positive feedback from the team at the end of the session. We'll want to do these every 2 weeks, and I think we might even extend the time as well, so we have more time to discuss.
Yeah, I think 40 minutes might be the sweet spot, and then if we use less, it's fine.
40, Daniel?
Yeah, 40.
40, yeah, cool.
And yeah, it's interesting because our work and our communication here at GitLab is so structured that sometimes during discussions, on issues or merge requests, I'll refrain from adding too many ideas because I don't want to derail the conversation. And then some of these ideas end up getting lost, right? I forget about them or they're not documented elsewhere. So having a less structured conversation when everything is so structured, I think actually opens up more space for a different kind of collaboration that is also valuable. And that happened exactly towards the end of the meeting when started discussing like a more upfront idea for a new feature that we don't really know what it's going to look like. We don't know exactly what the scope is going to be, but everyone has an opinion on it, and this conversation is exactly about this, just putting ideas out there. So it was really good to start consolidating the fact that, yes, everyone thinks we should work on this. So let's slowly start giving form to this idea and eventually turn into an issue and part of our prioritization. So really glad we had this discussion.
Cool.
All right. So if that's okay by you, let's move on to reviewing the current and next milestone work. I have some updates on the next milestones prioritization, 49. So I'm gonna open up here. Oh, it was already there. Yeah. And yeah, based on your recent comment for us to deprioritize our category maturity scorecard, with which I agree. I don't think we're in a great position to do this kind of evaluation in our product, and the link to your comment is there. So this was a huge weight on the next milestone, right? It was going to take quite some bit of time. So it opened up space to other issues that were important as well. There's a new KR in UX to close severity 2 and 3 issues. Close in the sense of having design solutions for them, not necessarily have them developed. So I went ahead and picked up 3 already. There's 2 for UX Dev. So it is quite the packed milestone. It's not that packed in terms of capacity. 16 points is fine, but it's a lot of small to medium issues. But I'm actually excited about that because then that means there will be a lot of progress on different fronts. The main issue, the central issue that I added here in terms of team, right? Connecting releases and environments is this first one. Part of the job here is to scope the issue and potentially separate it into smaller ones. So I haven't had the time to properly dive into this yet. That's why part of the goal here is to dive into the issue and explore it, not necessarily have it the design ready, right? So this might break into smaller issues. We might need to start some problem validation on this. The issue itself is on problem validation. So let's see where it goes, but I'm really excited. It might be very small, simple solutions. It might be one bigger, more complex solution, but I think as a team, this is right nailing where we should be going in the group in release. I think that's about it for me in terms of the milestone. As I said here, I'll follow up with the 1410 shortly, but we still need to figure out how much we'll focus on the delivery team after our recent conversation, right? How much that will drive our immediate roadmap. So still not sure what I should schedule for 1410, but we can have that conversation as well.
Yeah, sounds good, Daniel. Thank you for that overview. Actually, and since you're still sharing the screen, yeah, I'd like to just do a quick walkthrough of the what we have right now. This isn't final yet, but we're working on what our engineering team will be working on for 14.9. And so just a quick overview, you'll see a lot of feature direction feature work, which I'm really excited about. So one thing that we're working on is we're continuing to redesign our environments pages and deployments pages. This one in particular is making sure we apply all of our new designs and components to the environment detail page, or sometimes known as the deployments page. And so this also connects into our work with approvals, because we want to make sure that we have the right touch points for our users when they're looking at environments and when they're able to approve deployments. And so environments detail page is another page for that, where they can see the entire history for that specific environment. We want to make sure we're kind of maintain consistency across the different pages to have a good user experience. So this one's on deck.
Chris, just one comment about on this one. I actually think this should be down there in UX because it's workflow design.
Yeah.
The UI for this is mostly done because we reuse the UI blocks that we are developing for the environments page, but there might be one adjustment or another that needs to be done. So we can have it in both, since if the expectation is to develop it this milestone, and it is a short adjustment, so it can be designed and developed very shortly. But yeah, I'll list it as well in case I cannot get to it this milestone.
Sounds good. Yeah, thanks for the call out. Yeah, I think I sort of figured that, but thanks for kind of calling out that it's still ready, or sorry, it's still workflow design. So, but yeah, ideally, I think that it makes sense to me in terms of just general priorities. Andrew, we're excited that Andrew's finishing and shipping the environments redesign for the sort of the top level environments page, this milestone, and kind of a follow-on iteration. We'll want to tackle that next page.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. The next, you'll see the next few are additional direction features. Similarly, we've been talking about to-dos, but this milestone, we're also working on the deployment API and the deployment approval UI MVC. And so the next, kind of in the next order, one of the things is also we want to provide the ability to do notifications for users to make sure that they're aware of the approvals. So Daniel's showing the the mock-up here, something like this.
Yeah, this might change a little bit still. That was discussed in the brainstorm you just had. But we are happy to move forward with this option if that's what's right. Make sense,
Cool.
Chris?
Yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah, all right.
Yeah. And then the rest of the issues you can see there, again, kind of a mix of sort of feature work, but balancing some of the maintenance and security work that we want to do for our features. The other one is to kind of call out at the moment is aggregating counts for deployments. So Alan and Ali have started work on improving our instrumentation, which is very important for our kind of metrics and telemetry and tracking feature usage. So we'll be continuing that work in this milestone as well. Yeah, so yeah, still in draft. We're going to make a few tweaks over the next few days, get these ready for dev, and then we'll have our milestone plan.
All right. Thanks for sharing. Looks good. And one question I have, I've seen
Yeah.
this direction label used quite often, but I don't think I know exactly what it means.
Yeah, for the planning issue, I use it to call out, or I have started to use it to call out specific issues that are tied to features that are part of our vision, part of our major vision direction. And I think it's useful to include that in a planning issue for me, because I kind of could get a sense of like, well, this milestone, you could see here, at least the plan so far, it's made a lot of feature work, which
right.
Which is exciting. The other use that I think what it also does is we have certain filters on maybe our direction pages and even our kind of public facing marketing sort of roadmap pages that automatically highlight those specific issues for our users, for our customers and community. So I think if we mark certain issues, specific issues as direction, they'll show up in those types of places. So I think we've built sort of a system for highlighting those for outside communication.
Nice. Yeah, thanks for the explanation. It makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's to at a glance see if the milestone will move the needle in terms of feature work, or if it's still caught up in security or reliability issues. So that's
exactly. Yeah, and you would notice if you kind of look at like the past 3, maybe 5 milestones, not a lot of direction work. Direction work, but also a lot of security reliability. And so this I think we're sort of like getting past a lot of that work with the great work the team has been doing, and focusing on some of the roadmap that we want to execute on.
Thanks for the explanation.
Yeah. Sure.
So do you want to go over the planning board real quick? So
sure, let's take a look.
Yeah. We are getting close to time. So unless you have something specific in mind, I'll speak very quickly on design. I recently finished this display environment here on the environments page. It was a quick one, essentially updating the layout for this issue from the previous environments page to the new one. So what that means is just adding a tier badge on the environment card right here. So,
nice.
I try to highlight what is the use case for the tiers, right? When you have like automatically generated names, they're not very readable. So you use the tiers to help signify what is production, what is staging, what is testing. So I think that works. It's a short one. Then as we discussed quite a bit on the brainstorm, updating project settings to set approval counts for deployment approvals. Based on the feedback I received, there will be a little bit of iteration on this, but I'm happy with the state it's at. Essentially, before you could set an environment to protect it and choose who was allowed to deploy. Now you'll be able to choose who's allowed to approve and how many approvals, right? So deployments to production can only be approved by Andrew, for example, or require 2 approvals. So that's on the board, almost being wrapped. And then my next one to be picked up is either this one or this one. I think will be this one at the bottom because it's more related to approvals, but it's essentially reflecting the new capabilities of approval on the pipeline interfaces as well. Because right now all we have is the play button that approves, but we need to have the proper interface to either approve or reject from the pipeline as well. So excited about that too. And that's what I mentioned briefly, right? Making sure that this workflow is reflected across all the interfaces it should be reflected, to make sure it's one workflow and not a bunch of broken down features.
Awesome.
And I think this is it for me for the planning board. Do you have any other thing in mind?
Nothing specifically. I think what I'll do in the next day or so is just make sure that we can, I've been using this to pull in work into the design work for the milestone that you and I will be collaborating on, but also for engineering. So yeah, I think I'm good on this one. All
right. And then there's this new issue view created, right, with customer requests. Excited about this because it's the first time we look at this together on this meeting. So yeah, like do you want to maybe you share the screen so you can navigate here?
Sure.
Yeah, so I'll stop my share.
Yeah, I haven't reviewed it this week yet, so let's take a look together. Okay, can you see the screen?
Yeah, I can see your screen.
Cool. Yeah, let's see. Looks like we've had a few in the past few days, so maybe we could quickly take a look at those. First one, I raised this, but I actually think this is a good topic for a future brainstorm. But we did get kind of through an account manager, technical account manager, a customer ran into a problem with outdated deployment and an ability to sort of skip deployments. The scenario is listed here, but I wanted to capture that in an issue so we could figure out what our potential solutions could be. But this happened recently, and so I imagine if if we have sort of pipelines that are using manual jobs, some of our skip outdated deployments functionality might not work as expected. And so what happens is what happened here is that an older job overwrote what was in production, which was not the desired effect. So we want to think about ways to solve that or make it a little bit more robust. Let's see. Another one looks like it's related to deploy keys. We'll take a look at this one in more detail later. Yeah. Another one related to environment and kind of keywords in the YAML file. Let's see. Oh, it looks like some error messages popped up and the ability to use certain keywords weren't working. Right. So something we'll take a look at. I think the first iteration that we did is actually just corrected the documentation, but that makes sense. But since it's not working, we'll also want to take a look at this soon. Yeah,
at the very least, the documentation should reflect that this is not allowed, even if it's just for the moment.
Right. API cache should account for. Oh, another one related to pages. I'm going to skip this one for now because we're not doing too much active feature work, but I will take a look at this to make sure it's not anything related to security or sort of performance. Okay, and then this one looks like ability to add multiple branches. Operations dashboard, which the release stage group does own at the moment. So I think it looks like a feature request from a customer to be able to have a view in the operations dashboard to see different branches. Right now, it looks like I think we only include main or default. So this is a way to extend that functionality. Yeah. Cool. And then, okay, allow skip to create state transitions, deployment jobs. So yeah, it sounds like another probably extension of how we can configure sort of our jobs in different stages. We'll take a closer look at this as well. But exciting to see a lot of these sort of custom requests come through.
Yeah.
As always, let's review them. Maybe we can do that async. I haven't even taken a close look at them, so maybe Daniel and I in the next week we could take a look to quickly triage and then determine how we want to prioritize and proceed.
Yeah, makes sense.
Cool.
We are at time, so I think, do you have anything specific you want to say about the direction pages?
No, the links are here. I also shared them with our team in our Slack channel, and they're also available in GitLab. So I think the highlight are I did an exercise of reviewing our direction pages for our specific categories, adding vision sections for each one of them. And so it's kind of exciting to just think about, well, what are the future of these categories, and how do we align the work we're doing, and so from there, like, what are the new features and roadmap that we'll build from there. So check it out.
Yeah, I commented on a couple of those, but there were so many that I couldn't keep up. I love seeing this work coming out. Thank you so much for this. And for me, seeing this work, especially for the categories we're not focusing so much on, like feature flags or advanced deployments, really helps spark new ideas for, hey, I wonder if we could do this thing for feature flags. And then seeing a general description of that vision in the direction page, for me, is the strongest signal that, yes, I should invest time into thinking longer term for these categories. So really appreciate this work. Thanks, Chris.
Yeah, thank you for the collaboration, Daniel.
Yeah. So my last point on research needs is actually pinging back to the very top when I mentioned our decision to deprioritize the category maturity scorecard. Will, our researcher for ops and enablement, ops and enablement, I think he, as part of the research group, has been doing a longer term planning of his research capacity. And we had this CM scorecard on his capacity for a while, but it took us some time to be able to deprioritize it. So I think we can be more proactive and clear with what research we're going to schedule, especially because we are focusing so much on customer calls and just building the things that we have already validated, that I don't think we have a lot of research coming up, but we should make an effort to at least extrapolate what we'll need to make sure that he'll save the right amount of capacity for us to make his job more predictable.
Yeah, definitely agree. I think we'll definitely get there. Yeah. I as well have been focused sort of on the more short term. We have a lot of we had a good sort of tangent, but we had a good session with Tayana and Jackie yesterday discussing what's already been validated and researched and ready to go. So I think sort of we want to focus on that and make sure the team is set up for success there. But then I think after that, we'll then be able to think a little bit more ahead, and then part of that is also like researching, working with Will and researching on kind of future needs that we haven't even that we don't even know about yet. So, but yeah, that's a good call out. We definitely want to be efficient with this time, and because he also covers a lot of ground, and so we want to make sure that we don't we don't waste his time too. So thank you for that. I agree.
Yeah, no worries. All right. Thanks for the chat, Chris, and see you all next time.
Thanks, Daniel. Bye.
See ya.